Is there an opportunity for the daddy of Stargate, Brad Wright, to return to the franchise? Please welcome to Sidetrack Your Sci-Fi TV and movie channel. So it was actually on Sidetrack, first and exclusively 18 months ago, that we told you that Amazon did not want Brad Wright involved in the new Stargate franchise that they were planning. Now, at the time, I got called a liar. I got called names. I got called lots of things. But it turned out to be accurate. Brad Wright was not in Amazon's plans at the time. Now, I have to say that I, thankfully and luckily, get to speak to Brad Wright occasionally, and he is a lovely guy. And he has not been approached by Amazon. But things have changed to Amazon a little bit, and it opens up a possibility that has been discussed by MGM executives. But we'll get to that in a minute. Initially, why was Brad Wright not involved in Amazon's plans up till now? Well, basically, it was nothing to do with Brad Wright, really. They have nothing against Brad Wright. Actually, Amazon have hired Brad Wright to do other projects in the past. But there were actually two quite big reasons why Amazon never really wanted Brad Wright involved. Firstly, they did want fresh blood. This is something that they do a lot with reboots. A lot of studios have done this over the years. They want fresh ideas, fresh blood. They don't want to necessarily rehash the old stuff. So the way to do that is bring in new people. Don't bring in the original creators. Now, Babylon 5 is about to get a hard reboot, and they are actually bringing back the original creator, J. Michael Straczynski. One of the reasons why they're doing that is because they have actually finally realized that we don't necessarily like reboots when it brings something new to a franchise that we dearly love. Except for maybe Battlestar Galactica, no reboot has ever really been that successful. Continuations, like Star Trek The Next Generation, have been massively popular. But let's remember that Next Generation actually did bring back Gene Roddenberry, at least at first. And then Braga actually really stuck very heavily to the ideas that Gene Roddenberry laid down in the Star Trek Bible that he created. Now, New Trek ignored that, and that's a different conversation. But studios do seem to be actually finally realizing that we do actually prefer continuations of beloved franchises. We don't necessarily like it when they're completely revamped. New is not always better. But there was a business reason as well why Brad Wright was not really considered to be involved in this. Because basically a year or 18 months ago, where Amazon were actually making these plans, they were looking at doing it the way they've been doing other projects over the last few years, in partnership with somebody else. Now, this is basically because up till very recently, Amazon didn't own any studios of their own. They now own 6 at Culver Studios. That's also where Amazon Studios headquarters is. And they're going to be renting from another company called the Hackman Group a load more studios. Now, as I say, though, 18 months ago, they didn't. So they assumed they'd have to do it with a partner. They were looking at Warner Brothers, perhaps Sony, and maybe there are a couple of other smaller studios. And with them, basically just funding somebody else to make the show for them via MGM. But now we've had the strikes. Now that has changed the thinking at Amazon. They have, obviously, like I say, the 6 studios already. They're up and running. They're actually already making stuff. There's a big Eddie Murphy film being made there right now. They have plans in place to quadruple the amount of studios they have in the next 12 months. So all of a sudden, Amazon might actually have the capacity to make things themselves. All of a sudden, they don't need to have a partnership with another big studio like Warner Brothers. All of a sudden, they might actually be able to go about it themselves. And in that case, all of a sudden, Brad Wright's vision for Stargate is possible again. So why are the strikes making a difference? Because Amazon are having to put everything on pause. It's allowing them to get an awful lot of stuff ready that they weren't necessarily going to have time to do. They have accelerated their plans to get hold of more studio space. They have the opportunity to take a breather from other projects and actually plan ahead a little bit. All things that they really didn't think 12 months ago they'd have the opportunity to do. So Stargate was going to be announced at San Diego Comic-Con just gone a few months ago. My understanding was that there was, in principle, a deal with a partner, but it was never actually agreed. There was no actual final signature. It was never actually set in stone. So Amazon now don't have to do that anymore. It is my understanding, talking to sources that I do close to MGM and Amazon, that Amazon are taking this time and taking this opportunity to actually reconsider a lot of their plans for the next couple of years. And that does include Stargate. My understanding is that Michael Wright, who is currently the head of MGM Plus, has always been a big fan of Brad Wright's vision and has always argued that one, Stargate should return with a series, and two, that it should be led by Brad Wright. Now, as I say, that was not an option before. Apparently, according again to my sources, Lindsay Sloan, who is actually one of the heads of scripted material for MGM or scripted television for MGM, is also a big fan. And apparently, in the last couple of months, has been trying to argue the point again that why not bring Stargate completely in house, get it run from MGM, bring Brad Wright back in. We've already got a pilot script that's already gone through nearly 12 months of development. We've got somebody in Brad Wright that actually knows exactly what they're doing and how to move forward with Stargate, and that we don't have to bring in any other partners. MGM already has the capacity to do this. All they actually need is the studio space. And all of a sudden, because of the strike, they might actually have it. So why complicate the situation? Why bring in too many cooks that more than likely will spoil the broth? Why not actually just do what the fans want? Now, we've been arguing that we want Stargate back and that we want Brad Wright. Sidetrack has been shouting for over 18 months that we want Brad Wright involved. Yes, we reported the news first that he wasn't, but we also reported that we weren't bloody happy about it. And we would love Brad Wright to be involved. So to recap, there are executives at MGM arguing this point, but also they're arguing another big point, that Amazon do not want to be burned by the Rings of Power problem again. The Rings of Power was created by basically a bunch of writers that hadn't really ever done anything else. Due to problems with the contract really from day one, a lot of fans, Tolkien fans, were not happy about the direction of the show anyway. And they weren't happy that, many characters were gender swapped or race swapped or blah, blah, blah. Something I don't personally agree with, but that's what they were unhappy about. Basically, a lot of Tolkien fans and a lot of YouTube channels were shouting that this was going to be a load of rubbish before it ever came out. And there are people at Amazon that believe that seriously harmed the franchise and cost them money. They do not want the same again when they bring Stargate back. And these executives like Michael Wright and Sloan, who, as I say, are really the top people at MGM right now, are arguing that the best way to avoid the Rings of Power problem, bring back Brad Wright. Now, we argued a year ago, just bring him back as a consultant, anything. Okay, you've got this business model, you've got this way of doing it with a partner. Fine, bring him as a consultant. But now people like Michael Wright are actually arguing they don't need to even do that. They could just bring him back as the showrunner, as the writer. They could follow his lead and his vision. They could allow him to put together a team like he's done before that can deliver a brilliant Stargate franchise, a Stargate franchise that we as Gators would recognize as Stargate, that they could use the relationship that Brad Wright has with many of the actors to get them back. And the understanding of those actors that he has, that means when we then get those actors back and those characters back, they'll be characters again that we recognize. And this could be done very easily because Brad Wright would be more than happy to do it. All Amazon has to do is ask. So this is not just speculation. This might actually be a possibility. Now, I am very aware that Brad Wright has not been approached. I am very aware that this may never happen. But I'm also very aware, talking to the people that I do, that there are people at MGM that want it to happen. So, as fans, and as a YouTube channel that loves Stargate, I have to talk about it. And we have to talk about it. But I would love to know what you think right now. So please get into the comments and tell me, is Brad Wright returning to Stargate a distinct possibility for you? And is it a possibility that excites you? Or do you actually think that fresh blood is a much better idea? I'd love to know what you think. Get into the comments. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can follow all of these links. They're in the description as well. And you can go to our Twitter page, our 9 Chevrons website, our Discord server, etc., where you get to speak to like-minded people, other fans of Stargate. You also get to sci-trek.com, where you can get brilliant merchandise like t-shirts and jumpers and all stuff, Star Trek, Stargate, everything else related. And finally, don't forget that you can go to our Patreon page where most of our new videos appear first. And for a small contribution each month, you get to see them without the adverts. As always, please stay safe and I'll see you next time.